Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. Today's a really special day. I've been wanting to have an MC or rapper on the show, and I got the best of the best with DC's Kokayi. He's an awesome guy. He's extremely, I try to catch up with this guy. I've watched so many talks of his. He's bright as hell. He's really a wordsmith in the best possible way. And I'm really excited that he took the time to come on the show. A quick shout out to our mutual friend, Tim LaFave, who hooked us up. Thanks, Tim. We appreciate that. Quick announcement. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe to subscribe to the show. If you're already watching us on YouTube, hit the button over there that says subscribe and the little emoji that looks like a bell. That helps us get recommended by YouTube. And thanks for your support. Let me give you a quick background on Kokayi. He's a Grammy-nominated DC rapper/MC, been featured on dozens of albums since the onset of his career, including titles by Goldlink. I'm going to mess up some of these names. I'm going to have to ask you to help me. Gregoire Maret, is that right?
Gregoire
Maret, Terri Lynne Carrington, who was on the show, and that's a Grammy-nominated album that they worked on. It's called Waiting Game, which with Terry's band Social Science. Great record if you haven't checked it out. Omar Sosa, Steve Coleman. Let's give a shout out to Reggie Washington.
Yes, sir.
And Dafnis Prieto. Is that right?
Yeah, Dafnis Prieto.
Dafnis Prieto, yes.
Yeah.
As well as continuing to perform as a member of Steve Coleman's Five Elements, Ambrose,
Akinmusire.
Thank you. Origami Harvest, and Dafnis Prieto's Proverb Trio.
Yeah.
He can also be heard on Whose Hat Is This? Everything's Okay, Goldlink's At What Cost, MTV's Rebel Music, Kevin Hart's movie/album Laugh at My Pain, I Ain't Scared of You, a tribute to Bernie Mac, and over 60 titles spanning jazz, hip-hop, rock, and R&B. He's also lectured in 35 countries. He serves as a faculty with the New York-based School of Improvisational Music. He's a OneBeat mentor, a freelance music emissary with the U.S. State Department. He's a music supervisor with Untitled Interactive Games. He's co-curator of Beats and Beans, which is a discussion series on creativity, coffee culture, and the reimagining of creative spaces. He did a really great TED Talk, which we'll talk about today. So I would encourage you to check that out. Just look him up on TED. And he's also co-wrote songs for ESPN and created the theme to BET's How I'm Living and Microsoft's Jitterbugs. Kokayi, thanks so much, man. It's really cool hanging out with you.
That's a lot of stuff, man.
It is, man. I'm exhausted. It's pretty impressive, man. You know what? You're the example of like a guy who makes it in music by hustling. You know, you have a wide berth of talent, and we'll get into this because I know you've worked hard to develop more talents and learn stuff, but you've also applied yourself in a wide variety of education, music, and I give you credit for that, man. You're pursuing your dream, and you're not afraid to crank it up and work, man.
Yeah, not at all. You know, you come from a hustler's mentality. Everybody in my growing up, all of my siblings, my parents were workaholics, which is sad, right?
Yeah.
But you know, that's the energy that I got from them, and you know, I try to not put that same strain on my kids, but I'm really funny about work. Like, you got to be able to hustle and get it.
And you're also super meticulous. I've watched videos of you where you're putting stuff together, and I could tell this is not a joke. This is super serious. Like, you're extremely meticulous on how you learned some other stuff with cameras, for example, and then you got into it and you bought lens. You know, I mean, you don't do things 50%. No. You give 100%, 110%, which is what I really respect, and I like people like that.
Thanks, man.
All right, 1984. Run DMC released the B-side of It's Like That, and that B-side was called Sucker MCs. Tell me how that record changed and influenced your life.
My brother had just came home from, he was in college at Norfolk State. You know, I've been a fan, you know, I grew up in DC. DC is a home of go-go music. So that's what, you know, that's the lifeblood of the city. It's just like New Orleans Second Line or anything that you will hear. Zydeco in New Orleans, you got go-go in DC.
Okay.
So go-go is the music that you hear every day. My father was a heavy jazz head. So I was listening to Inekere and, you know, all sorts of Shorty Rogers, all sorts of records, jazz and funk and stuff. And my brother comes home with this record and puts it on. And, you know, this was after, you know, Rapper's Delight. So Rapper's Delight was the playground thing that everybody was trying to memorize.
Right.
But Sucker MCs was something different. It was just a raw, gritty beat and two dudes just going at it.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about Suck MCs. Like with Rapper's Delight, it was still kind of like that disco era. You know,
it was fun.
It was fun. It was fun and funky and musical, very musical. Like, you know, orchestrated, and somebody sat down with a pen and a pad and wrote some music.
Correct.
And what we would consider music, right? But Sucker MCs was just like the streets.
Yes.
It was a kick and a snare and trading rhymes going back and forth, and bravado and machismo, whatever you want to call it, wrapped up in however many minutes and seconds was on that record. And I was like, I want to do that
right away.
Immediately I was like, whatever that is, I need to do that. Whatever that's about, I'm about that. Where do I get it? Who are they? Where can I find them? And my brother was like, no, this is like fresh out of New York, and my dad is from Brooklyn. So my dad's a Bed-Stuy dude.
Right.
I would go up during summers and, you know, often on major events and go visit my grandmother who lived in White Plains. So we would go to White Plains and hang out with my grandmother. That's why I was listening to Kiss FM and WBLS, you know, all the mix shows, and I would record them and come back home. You know, later in life, I was recording them and coming back home and playing them. So I had the newest hip hop stuff. But at that time, I was just like, okay, next time we go to New York, I'm gonna find out. Like, I knew about Brooklyn, I knew about White Plains, I knew about the Bronx, but I was like, these dudes are from Queens. I don't know nothing about Queens. Whatever they got out, I'm getting.
Right.
So I was like, yo, man, however I hustle up the money, whatever, I'm buying anything they make. Why? I'm trying to find a video. I'm trying to find everything about it. And that just made me want to rap.
What was it about that hooked you the most? Was it the competition, or was it you know, that record was so straightforward. It was so powerful, their voices.
It was the rawness of it. I never thought about just, you know, and which harkens back to African ancestry. You know, that intangible history that goes forth when you talk about the griot and the drums, right? Yes. So it's the sound of the drums being able to communicate, the griot speaking over top of the drums, and a call and response from the audience, which is purely African in nature. And so that's what that was. It was just drums. It was just the griot speaking. It was just call and response. It was nothing else. It was nothing else to get in the way of the message.
Yes.
It was nothing pretty about it. It wasn't cute, you know, and that was the thing that I liked about it. I was like, how do you take this much angst and how do you take this much energy and put it in a record? And you're not telling me like kiss a girl or, you know, hug on your friends or we making money. It was like 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to say some MC rhyme. And I was like, where? Who's your friends? Like, who's your friends? And why they just do it 2 years ago? Like, it was just like that, you know?
So prompted a lot of curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Did you ever make it out to Hollis?
Never. No. Never made the Hollis. Nah. Liberty City. That's where I've been. No, Long Island City. My bad.
Liberty City's in Miami. No,
yeah, Long Island City. And the Liberty City too is different.
Yeah, it is. So your stage name is Kokayi, which in Swahili means "he who summons the people," which is what that record kind of did.
Yeah.
And I know you didn't randomly pick that name out. I know you spent a lot of time deliberately trying to think of something that relates to you, that would express you the best. What was
the name? Was actually given to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me the story behind that, man.
So I was, you know, they have this thing, at-risk youth. I hate that term more than anything in the world. It's just kids that just need somebody to listen to them for real.
Yeah.
Right. The things I like about Big Brother programs or programs where you deal with, you know, having to deal with young men or young women, kids, and, you know, things of that nature is a lot of times people who are older who have issues talk down to the kid, like, let me learn you something. Right. Yeah. And it's like, that's not what a kid needs. I know if I was in a situation, because I had both parents, right? But I had friends that didn't have both parents. And I saw my parents, you know, deal with them in a way that they became sort of a surrogate parent. Right. And my parents would never talk down to them like, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. They just be like, yo, you know, you hungry? Like, you need something? You want to come talk? You know, come hang out. You know, it was one of them things.
It was born of love.
It was born out of love and kindness and wanting to listen.
Yeah.
And so my job with this it was a rites of passage program for young men at a church, at an AME church in Fort Washington, Maryland. And I was part of the program, but in order to be able to talk to the kids, you had to go through a program first and just study, like you study in, you know, ways to interact with people. And it had a spiritual base to it. And then at the end, and it was all men. So your brothers would pick epithets about you and write them down on a piece of paper. And then the main person who was running the program, the pastor running the program, will go back and find a name that was for you based on what other people said about you.
Right.
So this was nothing I picked about myself. And this was nothing I knew about myself. It was just what other people said about how I was.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And where did you get, you seem to be very, confident or aware that you grew up in a good place with good people. And like, because I've watched a bunch of videos, read a bunch of stuff about you, and like you had this pay it forward mentality at a young age. Where did that originate, and what do you get out of that?
You know, I grew up from the outside looking in. My family situation was like the best it could possibly be, but I know the nuances in there, right? And I struggle with depression and manic depression, things of that nature. So as I have grown, you know, I wasn't a nice person when I was younger. Like, honestly, I had, you know, issues based on being angry and not quite understand, being angry and self-hating, right?
Yeah.
Which is what depression does to you. It makes you not like yourself.
Right.
And then just not being, you know, being a dark person, like being in a dark space all the time based on your environment. And so when I got to a place where it was like, you could stay in the darkness or you could kind of ask for some assistance to get out. And that's, you know, anybody who has a spiritual journey or whatever, you know, the God of your own understanding, how you want to deal with that universe. Yeah. So I reached out and was like, hey, I need some help because I don't like being a dark star. I'd rather be a person who's about light and about helping and happy. And I'm fun. Like I know I'm a funny person. Right. So I was like, I want to be that person. I don't want to just put on a mask of being that person. I literally want to embody being that person. Yeah. And it took a series of conversations, a lot of work, you know, and, you know, mental health to me is like super, super important.
Yeah, as it should.
But once I got to a place where I was like, yo, this is what I want, a lot of stuff, I think it was great mentor, people being in the right place at the right time, right? So, and helping you see certain things. So I had a lady who was she was like a Sunday school teacher at the church, but she taught me a lot about like spiritual stuff. Like she would talk about it, but it wasn't in a way that was kind of like, you need Jesus. It wasn't that.
Yeah, it wasn't religious. There's a huge difference between like spirituality and religion, and people get
right. Even no matter what your belief system is, right?
Correct.
So I know Muslims that are like mad, like they're not running around calling you infidel. Like it's, you know, that's the misconception. Is stuff that you see in the media is based on that. And then you meet certain types of people in real life. Yeah. So my cousin, who is a, you know, devout Christian, but she's like the most non-Christian, and not by her not walking, right? Not by her thing. It's just that she's not trying to put you in hell all the time. She's not talking about you a sinner all the time. She's not talking about you going to the pit all the time. Like she's not the person out there with the sign, Jesus is coming back and all you're going to die. Like she's not that person. Yeah. She talked to you in a practical way. My man, Tony Lee, was a Reverend Tony Lee. You know, we went to school together. We grew up in church together. Like, but that dude's a pastor now, but he not going to judge you. He like, come as you are. Like, and so when you get into the historical concepts of any belief practice, right? When you look at the historical Muhammad or the historical Jesus or the historical Buddha, right? When you look at those epithets and principles, you start realizing that all this other stuff that people do and how people say it is, that's not how the historical person was. So if you look in the Bible, the historical Jesus is like, yo, man, I'm around all these, like Jesus was really around thugs and criminals and prostitutes and hoes. Like that was his whole crew. So, but we the type of, you know, but Christians are like, oh no, I've never in a million years should you ever be around those people. All right, it's never. And I'm like, but what about like Jesus was hanging out with them? I can't stand Jews. Well, I'm like, well then you hate Jesus then. Like Jesus was a Jew. Jesus wasn't a Christian. You know, talk to me. You know, it's certain stuff like that. Right. And then as I got, you know, able to embrace, you know, higher thought processes and different levels of spirituality, and then just realize, especially being in music, you know what type of game this is, right? Yeah. I was just like, there's certain things that happen to me, I'm never gonna let it happen to another person. Right. Because I have a younger sister, right? So and I have 3 sisters. Well, one of my sisters is passed, but I still refer to her in present tense. Thank you.
Sure.
But growing up with 3 sisters made me super present about how to treat women.
Yeah.
Right. Watching how my dad treated my mom, and then watching how people treated my sisters.
Right.
So I'm super protective of my little sister and my older sisters, right? So being that brother, I'm like, oh, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't, do that. And then watching how, so you see these dynamics in relationships. So it's a certain way I am about women. I'm a certain way I am about women in music. Certain way I feel about representation. Certain things I feel about, Black women, making sure that they good and protected and seen and heard and all of that stuff. It's the same way I feel about young cats coming into the music business, because I'm like, yo, I don't want to see you get jerked in a contract. I signed a horrible contract that I signed, right? I take full, like nobody. I had this conversation with another producer out of Philly, and we was just talking about people complaining about like, and I don't mean to demean them or anything, but there's certain artists, right, that are mad about the contracts that they signed.
Right.
Not that anybody beat them. Like, it's one thing to get beat out of your money. Like, I took some bad advice and the lawyer was da-da-da-da-da. But then the ones that the lawyer was like, I don't know if you should sign that. And they're like, no, I'm gonna sign. Like, you can't, there's nothing to cry about.
That's on you, man.
That's on you. So I signed a contract that was purely on me.
Right.
But the indentured servitude and the amount of time that I still get a bill from Sony today.
Oh my God.
For a joint I signed in 1997.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Right.
Wow. You only do 20 years for murder.
Huh, man. I'm still getting a bill. But what that taught me was I will never, like, there's certain in perpetuity, I'm allergic. Jointly and severally liable, I'm allergic. Like, but that's what taught me to not ever want to do that. And when I see younger artists, I'm not trying to. That's how me and Goldlink linked up. It wasn't about me coming in and saying, "Yo, I'm an OG in the game. I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna learn you something, young boy." It wasn't that.
It was like helping them.
Yo, I was like, yo, if you just want to talk, because I understand as an artist, being the person in the spotlight, because we got signed to BMG France out the gate. Like, it was no real. I didn't ride around in a van. Like,
it was like right away.
It was like we were touring with Steve Coleman. Steve was like, yo, I think they're going to try to sign y'all. And then they signed us.
Wow.
And we were 3 MCs that did not have a group. We made up a group to be signed.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, it was dope.
That is great, man.
But I didn't have nobody to talk to. I didn't know anybody who was ever going through the same experience. Like, why is the record label doing this? Well, why are they treating us like this? And what is this? And what is that? I mean, except for Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
But even Steve, because Steve was dealing with his own career, he had given us a bunch of advice before we got there. But now what? Right. So after these experiences, just as long, I feel like, yo, man, whoever is out there that needs some help, I'm going to help you. I'm not trying to, and even with Goldlink, people's like, yo, you there? You trying to pay you? I'm like, we talk about ideas and things. Now, if the idea means it's going to make some money, then we have a money discussion.
Sure.
Right.
And you have to.
Right. And you should, because these are your friends. But if we're not talking about money, he just talking about whatever. Why would I charge that man for his time or any, like, I'm your friend. I'm not trying to be in your pocket. And it's very few real, honest people in the music business.
Well, and the fact that you got burned.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's the reason I pay it forward.
Yeah, that's Let me ask you a question. If you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable. You used a phrase that's from like 12-step program. You said God of your own understanding. Did you go through a program? Did you get sober?
No, I have a sibling.
Okay, because that's very program.
Siblings and friends.
Yeah.
That have gone through the program, and so but honestly, it's the thing that made me. When I got out of zealotry, I say that because I was that person. When I got out of it, it really made sense to me. When people say the God of your own understanding, I was like, oh, you know what? That's absolutely correct.
Well, I agree with you. And I had and I'm not a guy who got sober, but I had a similar journey. And I've read and taken a lot of this stuff from those programs because they're fantastic. There's great coping skill things in there, especially if you come from like a place of darkness or anger, man. And it really does help you crack open and like accept more, I feel you on that, man. Okay, so how did you first get started in the music business, and what was your first break, or was that it when you were out with Steve?
So the break actually came from being in this group. Well, it was a collective called the Freestyle Union.
Okay.
So elementary school, and I met Sub-Z and I, who was in Opus Acapella. Sub-Z and I have known each other since elementary.
Okay.
We had a mutual friend who was in my grade named Howard Riddick Tuji, who got murdered later after high school.
Wow, man.
Yeah, man, it's a rough joint.
That's heavy.
But me and so Tuji and I was cool, and he had a friend named Terrence, or AKA Kung Fu Terrence, which is so amazing because now Terrence is a Kung Fu master. Like Sub-Z is a Kung Fu master. No, like in real life, like he's a Wu-Dang Long man. He's like in real life Kung Fu. But in school, he would have these little Kung Fu shoes on. So he was like, he never took no martial arts. He just watched the joints and would come to school, act them joints out. Like he was Kung Fu Terrence, right? And he was fighting somebody, did some little flip or whatever, popped up. And we was like, oh, he know Kung Fu. Like it was a real thing. The whole Wu-Tang Kung Fu movie thing, that's a real thing of Black culture. That's real.
Hey, did you ever see that movie? I just saw it last week. It's from when, I don't know how old you are. I think you're maybe close to me, probably a little younger than me. Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yes. Yeah.
When they had that, and then Big Jim Slade.
Right. The whole night. Right.
That's what that reminded me of, because they had the shoes on that you're talking about.
Yeah. So it was that type of energy. But we've known each other from that long. And so we was in high. We went to elementary school together, then didn't see each other in middle school, then we saw each other in high school. And then after high school, he went to art school. I went to University of Maryland. And then we ran back into each other, like randomly on a job I had.
Oh, cool.
And he had. So he was working at the Library of Congress. I was working for the National Endowment for the Humanities, driving Lynn Chaney. That's a whole story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I met him. We ran back into each other, and he was like, yo, you still into hip hop? And I was like, absolutely. Yeah. So, that being part of Freestyle Union, then turned into meeting this producer named Ezra Greer.
Okay.
So Ezra was working with Arrested Development.
Okay. Wow.
He was from DC, Howard University grad, bass player, dope composer, producer. And he had been working with Arrested Development, came home, and he knew one of the other MCs, Tony Blackman, who was the founder of Freestyle Union. And he started coming to the ciphers and listening to people rap. And one day he pulled me and Sub-Z aside and was like, yo, y'all want to go to New York and make a record? I was like, man, yeah, whatever. Right. You know how you just, nah. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. We're going to own New York and make records, right?
Right.
And he was like, nah, I'm serious. Like, come to the crib. I'm going to play you some music, rhyme to it. And I was like, oh, you just going to steal rhymes. Oh, you're here to steal rhymes. You're just I'm going to say these rhymes for you. You're going to record them.
You're going to make a record.
And then you're going to make a record with some other people and try to jerk them. So I have a friend who is he's a pseudo goon. And I got the pseudo goon friend with me just in case. Like, I was like, yeah, well, we going to come through. I'm going to come through. Yeah, we're going to come through and do this rap or tape thing. But now I know where you live. Like, yeah. So we pull up at Ease and, long story short, New York. We drove late at night, ended up in Staten Island, spent the night in Staten Island, left the next morning and drove straight to the studio off of Ditmas Ave.
In Queens.
Is that Queens or Coney Island? That's
no,
Queens. Yeah. Ocean
Ditmas,
Parkway.
It's Astoria.
Oh, yeah, that is Astoria. So Ocean Park, yeah, you're right. It is Astoria. So we pulled up there, man, and I was like, yo, what is this spot? Red door, middle of a aesthetic neighborhood. I'm like, yo, we about to go through a situation. This is stick up kids. Look what you done did, and we walk in, and there was Systems 2, with Joe Marciano and Nancy and Mike and everybody, and I was like, oh, this is dope. This is great.
And how old were you at this time?
20 something, 22.
That's cool.
And I was like, yo, man, this is crazy. And we started recording. And then, we recording, and then he's like, yo, trying to figure out what's going on over there. Okay, we recording. We did the record, and then 2 kids come up from Long Island, and they're in there, Shalik and Utasi, and we all rapping together, and we like, oh, we got raps, let's go. And then
was this all freestyle stuff? Was this all freestyle?
No, it was all, we had written to the beats that Ezra has. So
okay.
It was, and we were like, yeah, it's like a jazz hip hop thing. That's what we were thinking. I was like, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me pretty well? Okay.
Totally.
So we were like, oh, it's a jazz hip hop thing. So we got the hip hop beats. We're going to go in there, rap, do the little stuff, right? So we had written rhymes. And then two dudes show up from Philly. A dude with a big old afro and a short dude with dreads. And it was Black Thought and Amir, Questlove from the Roots with Rich Nichols.
Wow.
God bless Rich. And Rich was like, yo, he already had a relationship with Steve, and Steve had played on the Roots Do You Want More, which wasn't even out yet. And so Tariq, Black Thought walks into the studio, and he's like, yo, I ain't writing nothing. Y'all mind if we freestyle? And we were like, mind. Never. Put the paper down. Let's go. Right. And it's dope. It was a dope, just a recording session. And then we left out of there. Right. And I was like, yo, this is my first, I got paid. Like, I got paid to do a record that's actually going to come out. And then a couple months later, Steve's manager called and was like, hey, do you have a passport?
No.
And I called Sub, and I was like, yo, man, did the manager call you asking about a passport? She was like, yeah. So we were like, all right, yo, we got to get a passport. We go down to the passport office, and seriously, dead serious, one of the dudes from the Cypher is working at the passport office.
Oh, so this was like karmically.
Yeah, everything. He was like, yo, what y'all doing here? And I was like, yo, we came to get a passport. He was like, oh, what? Step over here. Like, literally got our passport in a couple hours. Like, that's, it wasn't amazing, even, man. Not even it wasn't even a couple hours. It was super expedited, bloop, bloop. Like, and this was, before 9/11, before all that, but it still took you a minute to get your passport.
Oh, totally.
No, dog came back in like an hour and was like, yeah, man, go outside, I have a cigarette, come back. Came back, passports, called her back and was like, hey, we got passports. She said, cool, you're going on tour for a month and a half.
Wow.
What? She was like, yeah, get ready, because we leaving, send me all your information, got your passport, boom, 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 we on the road.
Where was the tour?
Europe.
Wow. So you're
not even the States, nothing. Dude, and I spent 5 years in Germany when I was a kid, so I grew up between DC, like my first 5, I was about 3 or 4 when we moved to Mannheim. I came back to DC. Yeah, I was living in Mannheim, Germany for 5 years with my parents.
What my dad service?
My dad worked for he worked for the Army. My dad's a Marine, but he worked for the Army.
Okay, post-retirement.
In the education section, yeah.
Oh, that's
so in the education section, he worked for them. He knows Shaq and all of them from being a guy who worked for the military that would help all the schools. He was in charge of Section 6 schools.
That's wild.
For the military. And so he would go and check out bases and help with the education programs there, help build schools. He knew Crazy Joe Clark. My father was voted one of the top 100 educators in the country. Like, man, that type of craziness. Yeah.
That's great.
And so
man.
He was like, we're taking y'all to Germany. So my sisters went to high school in Germany. I went to kindergarten and elementary school in Germany.
On the base.
On the base, yeah. But I spoke a little bit of German. So
did you really?
I still understand a little German.
Dude, I've never seen a black guy talk German. That was
I can still count in the whole 9.
That was wild.
Yeah, crazy. So we did that, and then they were like, "Yo, let's go on tour."
That's so cool.
So we packed up these enormous bags. I've never been on a tour. I didn't know what to expect. I packed everything I had. I packed a month and a half worth of clothing, like to wear clothes every day. The stupidest thing ever. Rookie mistake.
First and only, I'm sure.
Yeah, first and only.
So what did you learn out of that first tour? Like, what was the biggest lessons that you took away from that?
Be open.
In what way? That's really cool.
Be open to changes and it's the thing that got me improvising as a career, actually. So I'm one of the only, I think I am the only improvisational vocalist that works primarily with jazz bands.
Wow.
I'm the only improvisational rapper MC that works primarily with jazz bands. There's nothing I do with Steve Coleman, 5 Elements, Ambrose, Akinmusire, Dafnis Prieto, Terri Lynne Carrington, that's written, except for the song that I wrote with Terri for social science, Purple Mountains. Purple Mountains is written. It's not freestyle. But there's other portions of like stuff that you'll see where I freestyle other parts that I didn't write. So the stuff that Casa Overall might have done, I don't do his rhyme. I freestyled a part. With Ambrose, he had another MC on the Origami Harvest records, and I asked him before I got hired. He was like, "Yo, you want to be part of the band?" I was like, "Dog, I love your music. Do I have to say the rhymes of the other person?" And he was like, "Nah." I was like, "Perfect."
So you got to do your thing.
I get to improvise, and then with Steve, it's all about improvisation, you know. And with Dafnis, the same thing. Proverb Trio is a 100% improvisational band.
That's
and
awesome.
Who's Hat, like Who's Hat is that way. So with Who's Hat, I don't write anything. There's nothing written with Who's Hat. We just make it up on the spot. Everything. So the music is made up. We make it. It's all 100% improvisation.
Wow. I want to ask you. We talked beforehand, but I want to ask you about this. When you play an instrument and you have to improv, it seems a lot easier than when you, as a wordsmith, have to improv. And you do this thing for people listening. If you want to check Kokayi out on his Instagram, like I think every Tuesday, and I watched it. It blew my. I don't know how you do that. So go ahead, just like educate.
It's similar. So it's like we all have a lexicon of language, right? You know, musicians have notes. I have words. Like, and we all actually, because we speak the same language,
right?
We all have these same words. You and I didn't rehearse this conversation. We talked about questions, but we really didn't get in depth about the responses to those questions.
Oh, no.
Nothing was written out. And everything sparks another idea, right? So if I say something that you understand, then it'll spark a tangent, and we can go on a tangent socially by how we were socialized, our age group, things that we watch, you know, all of these things that become these through lines with us sharing this lexicon of language. Right? Now I speak other languages. So I speak French, I understand German, I understand Spanish. So I can understand other things in other languages. And the deeper I am in that language opens up a whole different lexicon of language based on that language and the shared experiences. So I'm a black dude from DC that had a Parisian teacher who's in high school. And I spent most of my time in Paris after we got signed to BMG France. So my accent, my understanding of French is basically Parisian, right? I'm not Parisian, but my understanding is Parisian. I can tell the difference between somebody from Montreal and Paris.
By their inflections.
French. Yes, I understand Canadian French, and somebody who's from Marseille. Okay. Right? I can understand the differences based on exposure. So it's the same. So you having an instrument, guitar, bass, whatever, as a person with stringed instruments, right? You know the difference between somebody playing a 5-string bass and a 6-string bass, and just from the sounds, right? And the access and the access they have to notes, and fingering, right? Yes. So all of these things inform you. When you hear somebody do something dope, you're like, there's no way humanly possible. What makes it dope is you know the amount of control necessary to play a series of notes.
Yeah.
So when you hear Eddie Van Halen shred, you like, no, that's a special individual. Yes. That's not just regular. When you hear Jimi Hendrix get it in, it's a special individual. That's not just regular.
Yes.
You know regular guitar players.
Right.
And then you know the specials, right?
Absolutely.
Based on your understanding of the instrument. So it's like that with any improvisation. And like you know, there's a series of limited notes, but the way that those notes fit together is unlimited.
Is infinite. Yeah, correct.
Infinite.
Correct.
And chords, understanding the chord structures, and the amount of time and study that you put in to learning your instrument and the language of music as it relates to your instrument gives you a further and deeper breadth of understanding of how to improvise and create on the fly based on your own feelings of that instrument. So the longer I study, the longer I'm alive, the longer I'm exposed to different things, the longer I hear different topics, the longer I'm able to have conversations, the more I get involved into whatever the theme of the music is. That's how I'm able to improvise and continue.
So you practice. This is not something like you wake up and roll out of bed. This is an art you practice just like any other musician practices.
I've been practicing for 28, 30 years.
Yeah. And so you'll whatever your routine is, you'll go over it constantly and put yourself under the gun with here's a loop behind this and here's what the parameters I have here.
Right. That's what Off the Top Tuesdays is about.
Yeah.
So Off the Top Tuesdays is me just taking, I decided I did a challenge maybe 10 years ago where, you know, as a producer, I was like, yo, I want to make a beat a day. It was called Track a Day. And I did it every day for a year. And it was based on Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours, right?
Yeah, right.
So
right.
In order to consider yourself a master in that subject or whatever you're dealing with, you want to be an expert. You want to be beyond an expert. You want to be able to control that situation. And so that was the impetus behind it. It was to make sure I had these 10,000 hours. So I would force myself to make a beat a day. Well, Off the Top Tuesday, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like I want to make sure that I'm forcing myself to improvise every week. I got to come up with a new improvisation. I try to shoot it real nice. Make it look real
you
cute.
shoot. I'm half the time I'm like sucked in by like your wordsmith. I'm like, how the hell is he doing? And the other half, I'm like, wow. On top of that, he's like a photograph master. I don't even know what the hell you're doing, but you certainly do, and it looks great, man.
Thanks, man.
Oh,
you know, I got into photography and video and just been like, ooh, how can I make new content?
Oh my God.
New stuff. Right.
No, but you do a great. That's what I was really impressed by with you. You like what I said earlier, you could see with the effort of everything you're doing, you're not dabbling. You're like 100. You're in or you're not.
Man, right.
You know, yeah, and that's like that's a lot of respect for that, man, because it's not easy to be in. You gotta, you know, it's like if you want to learn how to do roofing, you're not gonna learn it in an hour by watching a Google video, you know, right. And it's the same thing.
YouTube can get you only but so far.
Yeah, no, it's the truth, man. You got to put the 10,000 hours in, or at least 5,000 hours, man, in reality.
Right.
Which leads me to my next question. All right. You've done a fantastic job of educating yourself in general, but especially musically. I was curious, what are some of the things that you learned yourself? And we talked a little bit about this. What is the driving force behind your motivation to be so to succeed at it, to perform this at 110%?
And by learn myself, you mean just general lessons or?
Well, yeah. I mean, for example, like you play keyboards.
Yes. So Mr. Grogan, I was 8 years old. My father wanted me to have a piano teacher. Mr. Grogan has informed me for his brief amount of time as my piano teacher on how to be an artist. Honestly, Mr. Grogan, and I keep messing with my nose because you get to a certain age, hair starts to grow in your nose. And it's
dude,
crazy.
It doesn't grow on your head; it grows on your nose.
Right.
It grows
everybody
out of your ears.
Everybody here left. Everybody else is having a ball, and I'm like, can you stop?
I'm
like,
with you,
go
man.
here. Here was nice. I like here.
I feel you on that.
So, Mr. Grogan, man, he was a super patient dude. And I guess you would have to be with 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
And he gave me like the super lesson. We had a recital. And we go out there. I think he started when I was 8. Maybe I was 11 or something. 11 or 12. Yeah, 11 or 12. So Mr. Grogan was like, we have this recital. Go out there and play. If you mess up, don't start over. Keep going.
Wow.
Mess up, don't start over, keep going. Nobody knows that you messed up except you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
What a good, valuable lesson to learn at that young age, man.
Has helped me be the person that I am, the musician I am today, because I'm like, you can fumble, like you can rehearse and you can practice, but if you fumble, the audience cannot know.
Right.
You have to keep going like it ain't happened.
That's
and
great.
The same things that I've seen happen to artists on stage who are professionals is the same thing I saw happen to them other kids at the recital. They crumbled. Like literally, dude, they were out there, they were playing, and I'm watching from the rafters like, oh, like they would play and they would mess up, and then you could see them immediately go internally and start shaking and start over. And then cringing every time they made a bad note, and then they were just horrible the rest of the way through.
Sure.
And then like kids started crying, like it was great because it's a crowd, it's a crowd of people, it's an audience, like you got all this stuff. And I was like, all right, I got out there, man. I flubbed a rack of notes, but I was like, he said, keep going. Kept going. I got off and he was happy. People clapped. I sat down and I was like, yo, this is the best thing. I knew I messed up. And it was like having a secret. It was like, oh, I know I messed up, but they cool. So
it's like a superpower almost.
It's like they're cool. So I'm not tripping.
Right.
And that has went with me, like, even as a professional. Like I've seen artists stop a show and be like, yo, start over. You know, because, you know, we got started, yo, somebody flooded to know, like, yo, technical difficulties, like all of this. I'm like, man, nobody paid for that shit. Like, nobody paid for that.
Yeah.
They didn't pay for you to have a meltdown on stage. Yo, just do the song. I don't care how perfect you want it to be. I know it's not letting you be perfect right now. It's not going to be perfect.
Right. Wow. So you started a keyboard, but you're very comfortable and you're very, I mean, that's like
practicing.
Yeah. You can
it's a thing. So you just practice, you keep practicing. I don't read as well. I mean, I can get through, boy, pecking. I mean, E, G, it'd be a slow process. But I'm comfortable in what I can do. And I know my limitations.
Yeah,
right?
But you're super comfortable on that. And you create great loops and rhythms and backdrops. It was a nice story about how you got into photography because of COVID.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because that's what's impressive.
Well, I always like taking pictures, whether with camera phones or whatever, you know, little disposable joints. So I had disposable joints and all kinds of stuff. I got pictures from Cuba and pictures from Africa and all these places I've been, but, you know, through little, like, you know.
Did you play in Cuba?
Played in Cuba. I went down and studied with Los Muñequitos, with Manini and Sandy and Luis and them, you know, all the people that you saw in Steve Coleman's Mystic Rhythm Society. So we went to Cuba. I'm on that record. I went down to Cuba to do that, to study in Havana, in Matanzas, and in Havana. That's how I met Dafnis. I met Dafnis in Havana.
That's cool, man.
So, you know, so taking all these, you know, doing that. And then I applied for a fellowship. So it was the fellowship. And my proposal was, I wanted to reimagine the story of Icarus and Daedalus through the African American perspective. Okay. And I wanted to do it. Good God. I really just want to go, and save everything out. But I had to do a film. I wanted to do a film, like, so I'm ambitious. And I do these things to myself all the time. I'm like, I'm going to do this, and this, and say it publicly. So then I have to go do it. Yeah. I was like, I want to make a
blessing
film.
and a curse.
I want to make a record that I pair with visuals.
Okay.
A photography exhibit. And I want to make a film of some sort about dreams and the understanding, an idea of success and what the word hubris means. Because in our society, hubris often means that you are haughty and you shun your nose, you know, you flip your nose at God, and you're filled with some sort of pride that's not unnecessary.
Totally, yeah.
And my thought process was, well, reading the story, was Icarus prideful? Or was he a kid that just got a pair of wings that could, you know, doing something unnatural that no natural person could do? And they was just like, yo, I'm out. Like being a hardhead, like any kid. If you gave me at 25, $70 million, trust me. Yeah. I'm going to blow through a good couple of mil. That's not hubris. That's just me being stupid.
Right. That's,
you know
25.
What I mean? It's 25. Yeah. So when you look at Icarus in the story, you're like, oh, okay, he gets these wings from his dad. His dad, creates these wings. And he's like, don't fly too low, don't fly too high. And most times, when people hear that story, they always talk about the flying too high and the wings melt. They don't talk about flying too low to the sea and getting the wings wet and drowning. In both instances, you drown. One, you just fall and drown. The other one, you just low and you drown. And they use it to make people be mediocre. That's what what I was positing, right? Is that idea of hubris is to make individuals be mediocre and not strive for excellence because you don't want to melt the wings, and not, but they never talk about being too low. So then, not be an underachiever. They don't talk about that. but they just want you to be mediocre. And I was like, how do I study that? And how do I talk about that? And so I wanted to do this exhibit on it, and I wanted to make a record. So I made a record from the vantage point of Icarus, you know, and talking about each of these, you know, different aspects and ideas based around the story.
What's the record?
And then it's called Hubris.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Hubris. And then I went and I was going to hire somebody to take photos. And my wife was like, nah, take them yourself. And part of the money that I got from the
fellowship?
From the fellowship, well, no, I had written another grant. I got a Sister Cities grant, and I bought a camera with that because I wanted the video. I wanted to get into video.
Right.
And I wanted a better camera to start taking pictures.
Sure.
And so she was like, well, you got this other camera. You might well go ahead and shoot it yourself. And I was like, no, I'm not going. I'm just hire somebody. I'm not a photographer. And she was like, nah, you might as well. Just do it. So I was like, all right. Talked to my dad, long conversation with my dad. Oh, you know, how do you frame and how you do this and how you do that? And my fellow is a photographer, world-renowned photographer named Joao Pena.
Okay.
Who's amazing. His images are amazing. This dude deals with war crimes and victims of war crime and, you know, all sorts of societal, heavy, social, economic issues. But what he pulls out of photos is just, you know, still images is amazing. And Joao and I were talking. I was like, yo, man, I'm going to shoot this thing. And he was like, cool. And he just was like, take the camera off automatic. Because I had the camera on auto, you know, just everything on autofocus.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything. He was like, take it off and figure it out.
Wow.
So
that's not easy, man. There's a lot of moving parts to that, you know.
So he was like, do
distance, focal length. There's a lot of shit going on there.
And he was like, you need to do that so you fully understand what it is. And then the time it came to shoot the photos, I was like, all right, I'm going to go shoot these. And I went and shot them, and the shits turned out amazing.
Wow.
And
so cool.
And then I shot the film. I was like, I'm going to go and record my friends talking about being Black and dreams. Like, what is it about dreaming? Who, you know, heard your dreams, right? Who inspired you to dream? Who tried to keep you from your dreams? And who encouraged you about dreaming? And the film was called On Dreams. And it's basically people answering those questions. And it was crazy, the answers that I got, because they were just like, yo, you know, sometimes the same people that encourage you, the same people that don't want you to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that is.
You know, and he was like, you know, a lot of people just talk about family. Because I know, you know, my father was a big proponent of whatever you want to do, you just do it well. Until I decided to go do whatever I wanted to do. And he was like, whoa, what's that?
Oh,
like, what are you
really?
Doing? Like, yeah. Because he was like, you know, you be a garbage man, be the best garbage man in the world, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do music. He was like, whoa, you know, how you going to sustain a family with that? Like, yo, what's going on? And I'm like, yo, but you said I could be everything. He was like, you might want to go get a job.
Wow.
So it's that.
How did that work out? Like once, at what point did he say, I surrender, you know, I'm glad that you did this?
My son was probably 8 months, 10 months old. So this had to be 17 years ago.
Okay.
17. My son just turned 17. So 16 something years ago.
Wow.
And it was my birthday. And I was coming home from work. No, I was coming from the studio. So check this out. I was coming from the studio. And after work. So the way I felt about jobs is I can work a day job. Like as a musician, I'm gonna work a day job. Sure. Because I don't believe in being a starving artist.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm
you got
work
family.
A day job. Well, even without family, I feel like there's no need to be a starving artist. Get a job.
Right.
Right. Because, and I'll tell you more about that later. But so I had a job, and I, you know, was coming home from picking up a check at the studio for some work I had done on a record. And my father was like, yo, my back is messed up. I need you to help me move some furniture. You know, move a desk or something in a filing cabinet. So I got over my parents' house, and my mom was like, oh, he's in the basement. You know, he just needs you to move this filing cabinet. So I went down the basement, and I opened the door, and there's a brand new X6 keyboard stand, all this other stuff.
Wow.
And my dad was like, because you didn't quit. And because you didn't listen to me.
That's pretty big of him to own that, man.
Oh man, I was in tears.
Yeah, I'm sure. That was really cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool, man. So that was his way of saying, you know, I'm sorry and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Not a lot of people get that out of their pops. That's really good, man.
Yeah.
Is he still around, your dad?
Yeah, my dad's 86. He just turned 86. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And does he live near you in DC?
Yeah, he's in Maryland, so he's not too far.
Not
too far away. Yeah.
That's great.
But yeah,
man.
so I picked up so I kept doing photography, film, all this other stuff during the pandemic. And I did so because all of my gigs were gone.
Right.
My performing gigs were gone for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I don't really like the term pivot or any of that stuff. I think some of the stuff that we as musicians and creatives had already been doing. Zoom meetings, we already been doing that. Trading files through the internet, we already been doing that. You know, I need you to record. I don't live in LA right now. You send me the track, I send you the stems. Like we've been doing that, right? None of that is new. Listening to stuff and talking to people virtually. If it wasn't Skype, it was if it wasn't Zoom, it was Skype.
Correct.
We were Skyping each other. Like, yo, Skype me, hit me up, Skype, right? So some of the stuff we were already doing, but then it just the reality of not being on stage was like, what are these other things that I've already been doing that I could just lend a little more time to? Right? Some people we can lament and talk about, man, we want to go back on stage, and we can be trying to do virtual shows, and we could do a whole bunch of stuff, and that's dope. But at the same time, as any other musician, any other entertainer, we got to start looking at, hey, what other, I'm not just a monolith. I write songs for other people. What other things can I do? And I think all of us can do that.
Yeah.
You know, some people start a podcast, which was great.
Right.
I felt was amazing, which I think a lot of people should have done. And they finding that they really enjoy the podcast space. They really enjoy the content creation space.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But don't forget about playing music. Like, this ain't a trade-off in career. It's just like, I can't go outside. People are stupid and don't wear a mask and get, you know, and take vaccines and shit like that. So let's make this other thing until we can get to a place where we can get back outside.
And what did you do specifically? Like,
I did the in-house concerts for a minute, but then I started like making more work. Like, yo, how can I create? I'm fortunate. I don't, aside from DistroKid and TuneCore and stuff, I actually have a relationship with the Orchard. So I put all my music out through the Orchard.
Okay.
I was like, I could just make records. That's right. I can make records. I can make records in my house. I can score things. So a friend of mine has a software company, and he was like, yo, man, I'm making this game. I want you to do the music. I was like, all right. He was like, actually, I want you to be, how do you feel about being a music supervisor? Absolutely.
Awesome.
Then I work with a company called Coil. I work for Grant for the Web. I'm a Grant for the Web ambassador. And that's basically about thinking about web monetization, going for, especially for musicians and people that don't get paid for the work that we create a lot of times, right? For the songs, your Spotify income is what it is, and your Apple Music income is what it is. And some of those is, I listened to Troy Carter the other day. He was like, yo, some of that is because the label is getting, right? It ain't Spotify not paying. It's the label, the contract you sign with the label, they getting 84% of the money that we would give you off streaming. So once again, it goes back to that contract you got yourself, right? Yeah. So I was like, all right, what other stuff can I do, and what other spaces do I like working in? So I like working in advocating for, the disenfranchised and the historically displaced. Sure. And so this software company, this Coil works with Grant for the Web, and Grant for the Web asked me to apply to be an ambassador. So I did that. So I'm an ambassador, walking people into the web monetization space to try to get grants and funding for exploring ideas around web monetization, because I think that's, just like you have your program, you get paid off of, however many generation of likes and subscribers and views that you get from YouTube. Sure. Imagine if this existed on your own page, and somebody had a digital, and this works with cryptocurrency too, and somebody had a digital wallet on your page, and then whoever watched your content makes deposits directly to you. Not to YouTube, to you.
So you're helping people set this up and monetize their careers, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's I give you credit. You're a hustler, man. That's the way to do it.
Got it, bro. You have to.
You have to. I want to talk about your TED talk, because I thought that was like, you see someone on TED, it's like, that dude's arrived. Seriously, man. How did you get invited to speak there, and what was that experience like? And you were like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off before I even let you answer. You were so cool on there. You were like, you had this whole inch. It was like you speak on stage. Well, I mean, you do speak on, but it was like in that context, it's not the same as performing.
No, but a lot of that was improvised.
But you did great, man. You were
you.
like, and just like to do at some spiritual gatherings.
Faith-based, right?
Yeah, it was like, holy shit, this guy's like, it was great though, because it was like,
thank you.
You did great engagement. You got people engaged, which, as you know, that's the whole key to get compelling people to follow you. But so let me shut up. How did you get invited to speak there, and what was that experience like?
They were doing a TedX. So I think there's a difference between like the major TED Talks and then the TedX's. So this was a TedX DC.
Okay.
One, I can't remember which area of DC, because there's a few TedX's in DC. And they picked up whoever recommended me as a speaker, reached out and said, hey, would you want to do something on connectivity? Like, it was connecting, it was around placemaking and creative, placemaking and connecting to people.
It was remixing relationships, I think.
Right. That was mine. Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to talk about, because it was about how about community and relationships and communication. And so, that was my talk about remixing relationships and thinking about the idea. I'm always coming from a hip hop perspective. So a lot of the things that we apply through the hip hop tradition is just, regular stuff. Like, there's remixes all the time. It's just, people try to make new Coke. This Coke was already all right. You got this other Coke, ketchup with extra mustard, ketchup with extra sriracha, it's all that stuff. Yeah. So, yeah.
And that was really, really clever. I'm just curious, did other opportunities come from that?
Some, yeah. I mean, people, I think what it is a lot of times hip hop in general, MCs, DJs, well, not necessarily DJs so much. So I look at the hierarchy, and this is a different theory I have. I don't know if I'm alone in this theory, but there's like hierarchies in the epithets of hip hop.
Okay.
Right. So in hip hop music, in hip hop culture, not hip hop music. Music is just one aspect of hip hop culture. But in hip hop culture, there's fashion, there's graffiti art, there's MCing, beatboxing, b-boy, and DJing, right?
Right.
When you go through that hierarchy, because there's become a hierarchy, easier for me to get a job. And if I'm decent, right? If I'm a decent DJ, I could be 1,000,000 years old and DJ, and nobody will say anything. I could be 95. Here's Kokayi on the wheels, and hey, come on, we're gonna listen to Dash Effects. Like, nobody will have any problems of me doing that. If I do graffiti, right? If I'm a graffiti artist and I work, I have enough work, and I start to do murals, and I move that into the, to the higher art space, the museum, institutional gallery, institutional space, I could be 1,000 years old with a spray can, a spray can and a walker and a little helmet. Like, and nobody will be mad at me and my helmet and my walker, like, and my spray can, and I could just be out here. I saw, actually, and this is the dopest thing, because I'm a big fan of graffiti art. I used to, tag a little bit. I was in a club that had the interior design done by Futura 2000.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty cool idea.
It's in Paris. It was called the Trebendo.
Wow.
Before it was the Hot Brass, and then it became the Trebendo, and Futura 2000 had done the interior stuff. Yo, man. So
that's cool.
Being a graffiti artist, you could do certain things. Being a DJ, you could do certain things. Being a b-boy, you could do certain b-boy, b-girl, you could do certain things. Being an MC, though,
there's
a time limit. And hip hop is one of the very few genres of music and art forms where they put a time limit on the artists, which I feel is intentional.
Why
you don't hear about a lot of old hip hop artists?
Because in like rock or any other music, you got guys that are 75 out there touring, but you don't think it would work
I know it would work. No, it would work.
It would work, but
it's discouraged. It is.
Why is
that? It is, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's black music. It's black music. It's the most profitable of all of the music currently. It's the most profitable, and it's become the most disposable.
In what way? That's interesting.
There's not a focus on creating consistent quality music that is longer than the hype that is around it.
Interesting. So in other words, people aren't coming in there grooming for like a career in this.
No, there's a lot of artists. They don't groom any artists anymore. They don't develop artists, not hip hop artists. Ain't no development.
Well, there's no development for any artist.
There's
anymore.
no development in any right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Any
but the
genre.
longevity for that artist is purely based on not even your socials. It's based on how long we can get you locked into these contracts, and then afterwards we're done. Like, how much can we milk out of you for now and in peace? And I don't think that exists for a lot of other art forms. I don't think they try to cap. They'll try to sign for a certain amount of time, rock artists, right? But they don't try to cap you at all.
No, I don't think so.
Queens of Stone Age still out here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Ain't nobody stopping Queens of Stone Age. Ain't nobody stopping Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right.
Ain't nobody stopping even the other kids, the 21 Pilots kids who actually are rap kids. That's rap. That's hip hop. 21 Pilots is hip hop with some guitars, period. That dude raps. And I listen to early records and I listen to what he's done lately, and that kid be rapping. But they will never, ever, ever, choose to identify that as hip hop. And they don't choose to identify it as hip hop themselves, and thereby they won't even get a cap or a ceiling on how many records they can make. But with hip hop, the way it has been done and sold back to hip hop audiences, Black culture in particular, when it comes to hip hop and R&B, they put an age limit on it, and that age limit is perpetuated by the institutions, which then gets into the fans, and then the fans make it a negative that, oh man, you 40 on stage. Can't be 40 rapping. Can't be out here 40 rapping. But there's plenty of 40-year-old rappers you don't know 40.
Of course.
2 Chainz, Jay-Z, Pickett, Nas, all of these cats are older. They're not young. They're old.
By a long shot, by much older.
But they have skills. Run can still rap. Don't get it twisted. He Rev Run, but he can still rap.
Yeah.
LL Cool J can still rap. Queen Latifah can still rap. MC Lyte can still rap. Whether you like it or not, or if they have anything that sounds newer or whatever, or even quality, that's debatable.
Right.
But can they do it? They can do it. They absolutely have an audience. Big Daddy Kane is proving people right now he has an audience.
Right.
But in hip hop, that's discouraged. In other genres of music, it is accepted. Like the OG on stage is acceptable.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. I'm shocked, man.
Yeah.
I love the story about, you talked about contracts earlier. Now I understand where this comes from. You got offered to work on a movie, which in theory would be a great opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of respect for you because you basically said, no, I can't do this. I don't like the contract. So I was hoping you could share that story and then talk about what happened the next time the guy contacted you. That was great.
So there was an opportunity to contribute music to a soundtrack of a movie, which, like you said, sounds great. But in some of these instances, if you're not if you're an independent artist, a lot of instances there are go-between. They're like these middle person companies, right?
Yeah, like libraries.
Right. They're sound libraries, or they're just like people that play songs, because, music supervisors are a very special bunch, and they have to trust. And I learned this from a bunch of music supervisors who are super great and lovely people, but they have to trust that you can make their job as simple as possible. Not that they can't do the work, but they have to trust you to come with dope music that has, provenance, so they know who owns the copyright, things of that nature. If it needs to be sample free, certain things like that.
Sure.
And then you could go directly to that music supervisor. They'll be friends for life. You'll license a whole bunch of music to them. Bomb. I've seen that. I've had that happen. I have certain relationships that are like that.
Right.
In other relationships, I don't have, direct connections to other people. And so this company reached out, through like LinkedIn, and was like, yo, we want to offer you the opportunity to submit to this movie. We'd like to use this song and this song. Like, they had specific songs.
So they had
this song and this song. They listened to the work. They was like, oh no, we want this song and this song. And I was like, okay, dope, cool. Send me the, send me the contract. Okay, well, cool. We keep 100% of the publishing. You keep 100% of the writers. And I was like,
no.
No. Like, I keep my publishing. Like, if you haven't been in the game long enough, that sounds good. You are going to get a check. Yeah. Right? You can't control the publishing? No. You're not. Steve taught us a long time ago, the bag need to be real heavy for them to get to publishing.
Yeah, right.
And
you got to get a big,
heavy,
fat work for hire check.
And even if it's heavy, you still need to try to get some that's perpetual, that keeps going
Yeah.
That you own a piece of it for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Especially in a situation like this where they've flagged these songs out as so that means it's likely that somebody else is going to want them same songs for in the future. Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
So totally. I was like, okay, cool. I don't do that. And they were like, well, we don't do contracts where we share or split or give up a piece of our, no, we take the 100% publishing and 100% writers, or we don't have a deal. And I was like, cool, but we don't have a deal.
Right. Good for you.
Peace. And then about 3 years later, person came back and was like, hey, Rockstar, I had this video for Rockstar, which is an amazing video.
Great.
Thank you.
It was
shout out
really
to Donley
cool.
Brussel. Donley Brussel, there was the DP on that was a guy whose name was Tim Burton, but not that Tim Burton.
Right.
And Q&5 Music, my man Byron, who helped fund half of that joint. But that video was amazing.
It was great.
And
really cool.
Whoever saw that video and the song, they loved the song. So they called me back. The same company reached out and was like, hey, we want to use Rockstar in this movie we're working on with Kevin Hart. And they said Kevin Hart. And at the time, Kevin Hart was brand new. And I was like, yo, Kevin Hart's making a movie? Oh, hell yeah. Like, yes. Whatever part of yes you need to hear, yes, I'm down. Like, I'm down to have a discussion. I'm down to have a discussion. And I was like, have the terms of your contract changed? And they were like, no. And I was like, man, it's going to pain me to tell you this. But nah, dude, I'm not doing it.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Thanks, but no thanks. And they were like, but we are 100% guaranteeing you that this is going to be in the movie. And I was like, the only thing I could tell you is I will be willing to do 100% of the writers and split the publishing with you 50-50. Cost of doing business. I'll take the cost of doing business as 50% of the publishing, but I'm not going to give you the whole thing. You're not going to take any of my writers. I need 50% of that publishing. And they said, okay, we'll do it for this song. And I said, great. Yeah. Well, they said, we'll do it. They said, we'll do it. They didn't say for this song. They said, we'll do it. Kevin Hart's people hated the Rockstar joint.
Get out of here. How funny is that?
But I feel like an intern or something was they were cutting the film and they needed to place music. And I had a rack of music at that time. And they put 6 of my songs into different scenes.
Right.
It's the very opening of Kevin Hart's Laughing My Pain film. And there's 6 of my songs interspersed in there.
Awesome.
None of them are Rockstar.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And they called me back and they were like, Kevin's people have seen this cut. They really, really love these other songs. What kind of deal? I was like, oh, the deal you told me was 50-50. Like, so 50-50.
Right.
100% of my writers and 50-50 everything else. I'm good. If that's what y'all trying to do, and a check. And so they wrote me a check and then 50-50 of the publishing.
That worked out well because by that point in time, they had all this investment in there as far as time and expectations. So you had a little leverage, man. Good for you.
I had leverage, and Kevin's people loved the other songs that were in the movie. The one song they liked, Kevin and them was like, nah. But the other songs, they were like, yeah, these are perfect.
That's great. The other thing I liked about that is when I think you talked about this at TED, when you first got approached for the movie, and it didn't work out, and you said, hey, no, this contract isn't good. At that time, you kind of didn't know. You were like, that was your first opportunity to get involved in scoring. Yep. Yep. And what I liked is that you made it, you said to yourself, hey, this sounds like a pretty good deal. This transaction didn't work, but let me find out how to do, you did your thing, which is like, let me investigate. There's an opportunity here. Right. I'm smelling this. It fits.
Right.
Talk about that journey. Like,
it's like, well, once you start realizing, like, I have other friends that have placed music in films, and they told me the money they made. And then I started looking it up. I was like, Moby got $80,000 for a Volkswagen commercial.
Oh, it's pretty huge.
What? And then I found out, like, and that was crazy for a commercial. Like, and the money is multiples of that for movies. Right. And then I started learning how movie budgets work and why certain record labels got contracts to do the whole score. Like, not the score, but the soundtrack, right? Because the soundtrack is wrapped up in the movie budget. And so the record label makes money day one. There's no budget. There's no budget that the record label is paying out. And if you look at all of the upstart hip hop labels, Def Jam, not Def Jam, if you look at maybe Def Jam too, Def Jam, Death Row for sure, Bad Boy. TDE. All of these labels in their infancy got movie soundtracks.
Oh.
So the studio paid the label gave them the budget to do it. So the record label came off no money.
Oh, wow.
And so if you do that, if you have all the money, the record label's putting in no money, you just getting profit. Yeah. As soon as the soundtrack come out, you don't have to, there's nobody to recoup to.
Yeah.
It's all your money. You already paid all the artists. You've already paid all the producers. It's just money coming in. So look at the big soundtracks for Death Row. I think Death Row had, not Above the Rim, they had another movie. Bad Boy had a movie. TDE got Black Panther for the soundtrack.
Wow,
like, it's just money off rip. And then I started looking at how much you get paid for placing a song in a film. My friend Sharky, he had mad songs go throughout a bunch of different films. Like they were using this one song over and over. He was getting mad checks. And I was like, okay, this is something that I can see myself getting into, but I got to do my due diligence on what I'm supposed to get, what I'm not supposed to get, and what type of deals to take, right? And then seeing how I could get rid of the middleman, seeing how I could get rid of, the people in the way of getting that, and what do music supervisors, what are people looking for?
Right. And so you investigated that, did your work, and yeah, that's great, man. Yeah. That's good. So I'm assuming moving forward, that's part of your game plan to put more music.
Like it's always like, what music supervisors do I know? How can I get them the record?
Right, right.
And
that's awesome.
If I can't find a music supervisor, what content can I create
that they might like?
What can I make of my own? I'm talking about visually.
Oh, visually.
What can I make of my own that I could play songs in and put it out there in the universe?
And then you don't know where that exposure leads you to, man.
Exactly.
You're creating you're creating a lead generation magnet, basically. Right. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
Sometimes the proof of concept situation, as the music industry has changed, this is the thing now. It's like people go by Spotify numbers, they go by, social followings and things of that nature. They even make record deals.
Right.
So what kind of proof of concept? I can't go pitch a show based on the idea anymore. Gone are those days of walking through Hollywood and being the most beautiful person and somebody saying, oh my God, you can come and be a star. Like that's gone.
Yes.
Right. It's partially, right?
It's like, what do your socials look like?
Exactly. It's like, how many followers do you have?
Yeah. Right.
This would be great for us. That's how you get social influencers and things of that nature.
Right.
But I look at it the same way. Like if I want to pitch a show, I'm going to create a show and then try to make it.
Yeah.
Because it only makes sense if I put my own money and dollars into trying to make it, or, I'm really heavy on this other people's money thing. Like if I could use your money to make it and pay you back, then cool. Like,
right.
Not,
so you haven't invested,
not crazy. Right. I just rather invest and make sure that you as a brand are able to get what you need out of it. Right. So I know that and I'm not trying to go to Nike. Nike got money.
Yeah.
Right. It's the next Nike that you might want to talk to, especially as an independent. If your numbers ain't there, you might want to talk to the next Nike. You might want to do and that's the thing of when I talk to artists now, I'm like, when we talk about making music is dope. That's the easy part.
Right.
Making the music is the easy part. Even though that's a rigorous process, and as a musician, it's hard as hell to like eke out these emotions. But really, relatively, that's the easy part.
Compared to distribution.
How do I get it to everybody and their grandma? Right. Especially when there's 40 billion songs coming out every day.
Yeah, right.
That are 30 seconds in length, right? Like what? Like, how short is that song? And I'm sitting over here on 2 minutes thinking my shit's mad long.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's very true, man. So you'll approach people that are that want exposure to the people that your music is getting to, and you'll ask them if they're willing to support this.
With a full concept, because you can't just come with a half a concept.
Right. So you go with a full plan idea, and you're approaching people where the demographics are the same, and they're spending money on advertising anyway. It's an advertising check for them. So you're just saying, hey, I think you should consider this as part of your advertising budget. And here, that's a great idea.
There's a book called Zag by Marty Neumeier. A bunch of advertising books. Zag. That's the name of the book, Marty Neumeier.
Okay.
Which tells you about advertising and things of that nature. I think that's for anybody who is an independent artist, this is what I would say. You have to understand how to there's a dope MC named Odyssey. He's from DC. He's from Maryland, PG, Maryland. Lives in New York right now. Very, very astute, smart person who is about understanding how to control his own narrative. A lot of artists need to know how to control their own message.
Yeah.
Narrative. That's what I admire about O. Aside from the fact that he makes dope music, he knows how to control his narrative.
But you seem pretty on.
He feels like he needs to control his narrative.
Yeah, but you seem pretty on top of that, man. I
try.
Yeah, I
like,
don't.
As much as possible. I'm not. I feel like being able to tell your authentic story, and being honest. So that's when I first met Goldlink and we started talking. Goldlink is another one, a super smart kid. But we talked a lot about honesty, integrity, and truth.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like there's in the entertainment business, there are people that show up like beacons in this business that we know can get quite dark.
Right.
And those persons who are beacons are often people that have a lot of integrity, that speak the truth. They're super honest, right? And what they do to their benefit and to their detriment, right?
Yes.
Because those are the people that may not get the deal because they're not going to stab you in the back. They're not going to shit on you. They're not going to cheat you. They're not going to do that. They hold a certain, the gravitas that they had, and their reputation is more important than, beating you out of $3 because they know that the money will come because of their integrity. And so I try to be that person.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it's just about telling your story as honest as possible, being as honest as possible in your music, being as honest as possible in your dealings, and as fair and right in your dealings, so that you don't create this karma that's coming back on you. Like I talk about the pissy ladder, right? You could pee on the ladder all day as you go up. This is a choice. If you on the rise to being a star and you choose to pee on the ladder on the way up, that is your choice.
Correct.
Just don't complain to me about the smell and how sticky the rungs are when you fall.
Absolutely, man.
Because that's your piss. That's not mine. That's yours.
Yeah.
That's your ladder. You peed on your own ladder. So as you come down that ladder, because eventually there's going to be some sort of descent, whether that descent is monetary, spiritually, physically.
Sure.
There's going to be some sort of descent. But when that descent happens, because you're not going to be super shiny forever, don't complain to me about the funk.
Yeah, man.
If you don't have no pee on your ladder, it's not going to be stinky. It's not going to be stinky and sticky and disgusting. It's just going to be a ladder that you climbed up and went down and climbed up again.
That is so accurate. I'm going to write that down. Don't complain to me about the funk.
Right.
That's great, man.
Right.
Kokayi, what were some low points or dark periods you've had to deal with in life, and how'd you get through them? When you start off an answer like that, I gotta I gotta hold on to my chair.
So it's like the first one is like, it's the first time you ever get dropped from a record deal.
Oh man, yeah.
It'd be a low point, especially if you don't know why, right? And it's no do-overs and no second chance, and it's a business decision. And trying to differentiate between something business and something personal when you create these familial relationships with the label executives, that joint is pretty rough. And going from being on double-decker tour buses to sitting in your apartment with your rap partner in the cold, smoking cigarettes, watching VH1 Behind the Music while the heat is off because y'all ain't got no money, is a whole other level of situation. Watching friendships change, watching, relationships, group relationships change is another low point. When you see what the music business can do to friends and people that you love, and seeing how those things can take a toll on friendships if everybody's not on the same page, if everybody's not focused, if everybody is, and a lot of this shit has to deal with dealing with your own personal issues.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
If this game will teach you, you better find out, you better be ready to unpack your bags, all that luggage and baggage and shit that you carry with you, your life. you might, when you get into this business, or as you're in this business, or once you're thinking about getting in this business, you might want to start figuring out how to unpack that luggage.
Yeah, man.
Because that's the luggage that people will use against you to manipulate you. It's the luggage that will weigh you down and cause you to lose great friends and family. It's the luggage that will burden you and cause you to abuse substances. Because you're trying to escape the weight and gravity of that luggage.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things I learned from going through the low points, is how to look at what my issues are. Like, what are my issues?
What is your role in this mess?
Yeah, what is my, what part did I play in it? And if I didn't play a part, understanding and having empathy and care enough to be like, oh, that person dealing with issues.
Right.
Okay, I thought it was me. It's not me. It's the issues. I can't be around you. Right.
Right. And you don't get a pass for your bad behavior.
You don't get a pass, but I understand. So I don't hate your guts. I don't dislike you. I just know that I can't be around. Like, certain things you violate to a space that I can't fuck with you no more. And so I'm just like, I'm good with it. I'm good. I don't hate. I don't wish you no ill will. I'm just, it's never gonna be the same. It's not gonna be what it was.
Right.
Right.
And that's a healthy thing to like.
It's a healthy thing, and it's a sobering thing.
Yeah.
You know, to go through, and to just look at all the highs and lows. Overall, though, I can't be mad at my life.
Right.
You know, but the low points, a lot of times what I do to get out, I retreat to my spiritual, space. I, deal with the prayers to the God of my own understanding. And I absolutely 100% go see my therapist.
Yeah, man.
Right. And not because my therapist agrees with me, because I think the worst type of therapist is one that's like, you're right.
Oh, man. You're right. Well, yeah, I agree with you there.
I think
that's the worst. That's the worst type of
because that's not therapy.
Relationship.
Yeah, anybody.
Man. Yeah.
I don't want you to tell me I'm right. That's why I tell most of the younger artists that I deal with, I'm like, yo, yes, people are just they're not your people.
Right. That's what
you want somebody who's gonna tell you nah.
Well, that's what I like me tell the story about your wife. And she said, no, you do the photography.
Right.
She didn't say, okay, honey, that's fine.
Yeah. Like, nah.
But that's how you become a bigger person, by getting out of your comfort zone and like, okay, I'll do that. And then hey, look at it, turned out great. Right. You got so many other skill sets from it. Man. Yeah. That's cool, man.
So that's how you do. That's how I deal with dark, the dark lows of it all. And I still go through them. Like, I go through periods of self-doubt. I still go through periods of imposter syndrome. I still go through none of that should change.
Yeah.
Right? You always, if you're an artist out here, honestly making work, you always try to make sure that you should be trying to make sure that you're saying something. Right.
Yes.
And at some point, sometimes you feel like you're not saying something.
Right.
And at those points, I think you should just keep creating. Like, I still believe in that. I think that, even in my darkest spaces, I'm gonna keep creating. If that's some dark work, it's just dark.
Yeah, man, I think that's great. And I think it shows a certain level of confidence in your inherent abilities and your ability to say, hey, I'm going through a dark period. Doesn't mean what I'm creating is bad. I'm going through this, and you're allowing yourself to be human. Who the hell doesn't go through, especially nowadays, man? If you don't cut yourself some slack, but man, today is just a bad day, and I'm okay with that, man.
Best piece of advice I ever got from a friend of mine. I was going through something in particular, and he just said to me, he said, man, I love you and everything, but when you gonna take your foot out your own ass?
Wow, right on, man.
I was like, whoa, like, take it out your own ass, man. Come on.
That's great. That is,
and that just motivated me. Like, I kept it for this many years. Like, I passed that advice on to other people. At some point, you gotta give yourself a break.
Yeah, man. You got
not a pass though. Now that's the difference.
Right.
It's not a pass. It's not a pass for bad behavior. It's not a pass for making a horrible mistake. It's not a pass for being intentionally foul. It's not a pass. But it's just like, okay, I've beat me up enough.
Yeah, right. Totally. Right? I can have a bad day. That's okay.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Now I have to deal with either the restitution of it or the karma of it. And I'm speaking of karma, I'm at peace with you, B. Stay over there. I like you for nature's sake. I don't want to have to kill you. But yeah, you should give yourself an opportunity to stop beating yourself up, because we know our own. That's the other thing. We know our own trash. We know our own secrets.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how we end up. That's when I look at the enemy of depression like that. When I look at my depression, it's a bully, right? Depression is a bully.
It's a great way to look at it, man.
And a lot of times that bully will point at all the things that you're insecure about because it's you and you know all your secrets. So it points at your insecurities and starts doing that. And then it makes you not like you. And then it makes you put your foot in your own ass. And you have to like not let the bully win.
Yeah, man.
And it's easy to say, but it's like for me, what worked was I had to imagine it as a bully. And then I had to tell myself certain things. Like I had to tell myself I love myself, that I'm not a bad person, that I'm cool. Like it's okay. It's okay to be me. And then the other part is what you gonna do about it?
Man, I think that's a very healthy spin on this because looking at depression as a bully allows you to see it as something you can conquer instead of it's part of me. You've separated. That's a very, I've talked to hundreds of artists and musicians who suffer from depression. That is a very clever fucking thing, man.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, it's a part of me, but it ain't, it's that bully.
It's that bully, man.
It's the bully that want to come through and just every time you in the hallway, it wants your lunch money. Like every time you walking down the hall, it's smacking the books out your hand. Like you having a great day, and here it is pushing you into the locker. Like it's that bully.
Yeah,
and
totally.
At one point, even if you not, and even in my own life, I had bullies. But at one point, I walked up and punched the bully in the face. Now I got my ass handed to me. Like I got the brakes beat off me. But I punched him in the face though.
Yeah, yeah.
I had one bully. He was the neighborhood bully. I walked up to him. I punched him dead in his mouth. Like, because my brother was like, you were going to fight him. Like, he was the shortest little dude on the block, but he was running everybody. And he was like, I'm going to beat you up. And I was like, I'm not coming outside. And my brother was like, oh, no, you're going outside. He was like, no, I'm going to go with you. This is what my brother did. So I'm going to go with you. You're going to fight. I'm going to be right there. I was like, okay, you're going to be right there. And he told me to go out the house, and he closed the door behind me and locked it. And was like, you ain't coming inside. And this is my older brother. You ain't coming inside until you fight.
That's like throwing the kid in the swimming pool and letting him learn or her learn. Yeah.
I walked right down the steps and because he was like, either he gonna beat your ass or I'm gonna beat your ass. I was like, I guess it's gonna be me and him. And I walked down the steps and he was like, da da da. And while he was in the middle of talking, I punched him in the face.
Good for you.
And we ended up fighting and he beat me.
But he never bothered you again, I bet.
Never.
Yeah. That's
we
great.
Were friends after that.
That's good.
And so that's how I look at depression. It's like, yeah, you might beat me. I'm gonna punch you in the face though.
Good for you, man.
You're not gonna win today. You're not gonna win all of them. You might win a couple. I might get into my dark space and cry and feel funny, but you ain't gonna beat me though. It's not gonna be we gonna fight. And so that's how I look at it,
Man, I think that's one of the healthiest and most practical ways of dealing with depression that I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Man, that is really, really great. What's the last thing you listened to on your Spotify or Apple Music?
The last few things, because there's been a few. So I've been listening to my man Rico Love has a artist named Mia Ariana. So I've been listening to her record. I really like her record. I've been listening to that. DJ Khaled just put out a record, so I'm supposed to listen to that. I haven't listened to it yet. Quelle Chris, his last couple of records. I love Quelle. I went through a whole Doom phase right after Doom passed. Just running back old Doom. I did the same thing when Shock G passed, listening to Digital Underground.
Yeah, I didn't know that till recently.
Yeah. But yeah, that's been it. Like I've been listening to Mia Ariana. And just, going back and forth through older stuff and then coming back to this. Like Khaled is something I just want to listen to see what's up.
Right. What's
up? You got to stay. I think as a musician, I don't care what genre of music you're in. I think you need to stay in touch with like what's going on.
Well, you have to. I mean,
yeah, you should. Well, no, because you got a bunch of old heads. And they mad at all the new stuff, and they hate all the new people. Nobody makes music like they used to, and
But they're getting paid today, so I mean, it'd be in your best interest to at least give it a listen.
You might want to listen to what these kids are doing to see what's happening. Because you too at one point were 17.
Yeah, right. Totally, man. Hey, give me your top 3 Desert Island discs. just for this moment. Like it could change.
Oh my God!
And then
So
I know.
No. Because I'm thoroughly fine with exactly what we're gonna say. Yeah. So Desert Island, I'm definitely going with who? So you got Gene Harris when he was with the Three Sounds. So the Three Sounds eponymous record, Three Sounds.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies.
Great record.
And then for Peace and Tranquility, I'm going with Tamita's Snowflakes Are Dancing.
Right on, man. That was very decisive. Usually people struggle a lot more than that. That was pretty decisive.
No. You got because you gotta go with the inspirationals. So that's my jazz thing, the Jimmy kind of rock inspirational. Because both of the Gene Harris Three Sounds thing was very instrumental in my first forays into sampling.
Okay.
And that correlation between jazz and hip hop music. So that was Three Sounds was my go-to sneaky records that I would find. And then Jimmy, of course, my brother was a Jimi Hendrix head. And so, but Band of Gypsies was different because it was his first all-black band. And then it was, Machine Gun was on it. It was a crazy,
was a great record, man.
Buddy Miles on drums was a crazy record.
That was
and then
awesome.
Tomita was the first time I heard classical through electronic instruments.
Okay.
So Snowflakes Are Dancing is all Debussy tunes.
Interesting.
Share those. Electronic by this Japanese dude named Tomita.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Dance of the Gollywogs, all kinds of crazy joints. It was crazy.
All right, this is an unusual question. How's Kokayi different from Carl Walker, and which one of those guys am I interviewing today?
Oh, you're definitely interviewing Kokayi today. With a little mix of Carl in it. I think you get a fair mix.
Yeah, I think
because I try to keep it as honest as possible. As myself. Yeah. Carl is a complicated individual. I don't even like to refer to myself in the third person.
Yeah, this is
actually weird... So the crazy part is actually you could tell who are my real friends. Like there are people who can opt to call me Kokayi, and there are people who can call me Carl, and it's no problem.
Right. Those are your old school buddies.
Not even old school. There's some new people that could be like, yo, Carl. And we're perfectly cool with that. Tim LaFay can call me Carl anytime. and does from time to time,
Right.
Other people, it depends on how they introduce. You could tell who's the friend in the circle. If they like, hey, Coke, and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And if they're like, hey, Carl, let me talk to you, then that's a whole different thing. Yeah. Most of my musician friends deal with the artist name and call me by my given name in private.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think there's not a I think the other freedom of I'm a different person on stage. Actually, that's what happens.
Totally get.
So I think that's the channel. That's the channel of the summoner, like really happening on stage. I do it in my regular life, but the summoner comes out on stage. Kokayi is the stage person that's like fully out there, and it doesn't matter. Like it's all the way out. And for me, that's the thing. The stage is cathartic.
Yeah, I could see that. Totally. But
that's the other part of depression that like it helps. Like there's a couple of things. I go to regular therapy, I get tattoos, and I perform. Like those are all for me the same thing.
Those are all therapeutic or cathartic.
All of them.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. That's a great excuse to get a tattoo also.
I mean, I can't get my ears. So my wife won't let me get my ears pierced. I can't get a labret or a nose piercing. I can't do any piercings. But I can get tattoos. Yeah. So I have, I'm in the midst of having the entire left side, my back, and my entire left side of my back done. Like my whole left side of my body and my back will be done by the end of this year. Yeah.
Wow, holy shit! I have
great tattoo artist named Imani, a black woman.
That's wild, man. Wow, I have like no tattoos. I go to the gym. I'm the only guy who's got no tattoos in there, man. I feel like I'm 100 years old.
I need to go to the gym. Nah, go to the gym. I miss the gym. Like that's the part. I'm part of this challenge right now called Every Day in May, started by Jerry L. Johnson, because he lost a lot of weight last year during COVID. He started working out once a day in May.
So you just started that?
Yeah, he has a challenge now along with New Balance called Every Day in May.
Oh, that's cool.
Part of the cohort that he brought into it to work out with him every day. So I've been working out every day. I'm trying
That's
to
good.
do these 29, 30 days or whatever, how many other days in May and get it in.
Dude, that's great.
Spark the revolution. Yeah.
That's great for depression.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. Yeah.
I just need to look like I smoke crack a little bit. That's what I need. Minus the stuff missing out my house. I just want to be outside, you know, the rest of the summer, you know, kind of naked going into December. I want to be able to chop wood in a tank top with a pair of shorts on. You know what I mean?
I just need to feel
wood,
like
fully tattooed up.
Crack
just a little bit of crack. I just need that. I need the little sallow face, but you be like, yo, you all right? Like, I need people to ask if I'm okay. All right, everything all right? I just want that question. That's how in shape I want to be. I want to be crack, almost slight crack smoke shape. There you go.
Oh my God. Best decision. Tell me the best decision you ever made.
Marrying my best friend.
That's awesome. How long you been married or together?
20 years.
That's awesome.
We've been together 23 years. But
that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Great. 2 great kids. Yeah, best decision I ever made.
That's awesome, man. I'm really happy for you guys. I hope you have a lot more years together.
Thank you. Me too, man. Because this is the last time I'm doing it. She know. We both know.
One and done.
That's it. One and done, bro.
Yeah, man.
I'm with this one. And tell. Like, I'm not doing this again. I love you. Yeah.
Tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
I think I like the fact that I'm resilient.
And what would your wife say she likes most about you?
That I do not know. I don't know. Like, I don't know. She probably would say that, you know, that I don't quit. Like, there's nothing. And I think she would say that I'm a giving person.
That's cool, man.
I give to a fault sometimes. Like, I'm super loyal. Like, that to me, there's a couple of friends that I have. One in particular I definitely have to drop is this guy named D Prosper. He deals with Soul on the Horn. His name is his organization and party started. But I've known D forever. Like, D wanted to manage Opus, and then he started Soul on the Horn, which is a party out of New York with Natasha Diggs. But he worked for G Unit. He worked for a lot of people. That dude is the most loyal, honest dude that I've ever met.
And you guys grew up together?
Nah. I met him as part of the business. Like, he wanted to manage. I met him like 20-something years ago.
Wow.
He wanted to manage a group. I was working with the singer Vinny Mojica you heard on De La Soul and Commons Records, Tribe Called Quest Records. And I was working with Vinny. She had a manager named Marvin. And Marvin and D were partners in a management company. And I ended up meeting D, and D and I are friends to this day, man.
That's cool, man.
Because he's one of those rare few, right?
Especially as a manager, you're telling me. I'm like, oh yeah,
he was a manager. He was a manager, A&R, producer, MC. Like, there's a video of the young D Prosper battling Jay-Z in a cypher.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Something about yourself people might be surprised to hear or might find a little odd.
I don't know if they'd be surprised that I cook like a champion and make a great key lime pie.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's your thing, key lime pie?
I make from scratch, no bake key lime pie.
Serious?
It's like a custardy pie that you put in the freezer. But I have a friend that hates key lime pie. He can't stand key lime pie except mine.
That's awesome, man.
I used to have quiche tastings, like when the house was, I do quiches. I did a vegan quiche. I do all kinds of quiches. I had a quiche tasting party.
That is surprising, man.
Yeah, I do. Like, you come to my house, you're gonna eat good. Like,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I love to cook. Cooking for people and driving are actually very, like, the things that I love to do.
Do you find them calming?
Driving for me is like, it's the most frustrating. I can't stand people that can't drive. So my wife would definitely be like, I can't stand when I drive with him because I hate people that can't drive.
Yeah.
I don't have road rage. I have what would you say is less than rage? It would be annoyance. I'm so annoyed by people who cannot drive. And by cannot drive, I don't mean a slow driver. I don't mean a super fast driver. I don't mean that. I mean people who are that don't pay attention.
Oh,
that's what I mean by a bad driver,
dude. There's so and because of this, and this scares the shit out of me when you're driving and like you're wondering why this guy is in the left lane, and you drive by them and they're like fucking texting or like, I mean, they got this shit
fully
up in
the
phone.
phone. Yeah, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? You trying to kill people?
Yeah.
My thing is, don't kill me, kill you.
Yeah.
Don't kill me, kill you. You can kill you all day.
Yeah,
don't kill me.
Yeah, man.
Don't kill me.
That's just very
stupid.
Scary, man.
It's the phone. It's the overly aggressive drive. Like, I'm like, hydroplaning exists. I don't care if you have brand new tires.
Oh. I
don't care if you've driven in, Formula 500. I don't care what you drive. Dog, you can hydroplane. So it doesn't make sense in the rain to do 110.
No, man, slow down. Yeah, I'm with you.
One person hit the brakes, dog. You skating, it's a wrap. Like, go kill you. Like I said, skate across the road when nobody's there and you can kill you.
I'm with you on that.
Don't kill me. Yeah. So yeah, bad drivers annoy me, but I love driving. Bad food is a thing. We can talk about that. Just if you can cook, we good. If you can't cook, keep it moving. But yeah, I'm gonna make me some food. Like, and not just because I'm a big fellow. I like making food to watch people eat it. Actually, that's the weirdo shit. Like, I like seeing. I'm real weird. I'll be like, how is it?
No, but you know what? People that cook, I've done a lot of studying on, self-development and stuff. And like one of the things I remember reading early on, because I'm not a big foodie, right? But they said if somebody offers you food, like in a business situation, always accept it, because chances are good they're getting joy out of you enjoying whatever it is they're offering. And that's so I totally get that. What's the favorite thing you like? Is key lime pie your favorite thing you like? What's the favorite thing?
Oh, it's anything experimental. Like, I try to experiment with all sorts of things. So I'll make anything from anywhere. My friend, a Nigerian friend of mine, put me on the gari, which is cassava, ground cassava.
Okay.
It's fufu is a pounded yam, is a African yam. So fufu is a yam that you mix with water and you mix it, and it's like this gelatinous thing that you eat with food. So you take a piece of the fufu, you sop up the food and you eat it. It's like injera that they have with Ethiopian food. You don't eat with a fork and knife, you eat with the injera. Right. So the bread, you use a specific type of bread with a specific type of flour. You break off a piece of the injera and then you grab the food, you eat with your hands.
Right. I've seen that.
Same thing with, and so having been in Muslim countries that eat with their hands, like Senegal and other places, you don't eat with your left hand because the left hand is reserved for wiping your butt.
Wow.
So in a communal setting, you normally eat with your right hand. You don't eat with your left hand. You eat with
Interesting.
Your right hand.
Wait a minute. Note to self.
Yeah. Eat with right hand.
Yeah, that would be
left
the worst
hand
thing.
is for wiping. Right hand is for eating. You look nasty if you pick up the food with your left hand.
Yeah, you won't get invited back, I don't imagine.
No.
Hey, what's the most important thing your dad taught you?
Damn, there's so many lessons.
That's great.
The most important, I think, was this is sad.
This is sad. Then you started laughing.
Yeah, because it's super deep, right? So, but it's sad, but it was the most. I have to be honest. I'm not gonna make up no shit. So, the best piece of advice he ever gave me was actually a statement that he said to me that freed me from a lot of different constraints. And what he said was, I used to not be able to talk to my dad without busting out in tears when I got older, just because of our relationship, right? It was tumultuous after a while. And he said to me, I was in his office and we were talking about something and I started busting into tears. And he said, man, whatever it is you want from me, I ain't got it. And I was like, for anybody else, that probably would make you break down and just ball up in a thing or not, right? But for me, I was like, oh shit, you ain't got it. Oh man, thank you. Like it literally in my head, I didn't say thank you. I felt sad. I think I cried more and I think I was more in disbelief because he just admitted like, I ain't got it. And I was like, yo, but then I was like, you know what, man? That was the most freeing thing he could have ever did for me.
Yeah.
So stop coming over here looking for this approval or looking for this, whatever thing you wanted, right? I ain't got that for you. So I just stopped looking. not that I gave up on my father or anything. Like our relationship got exponentially better after that point, because I realized that whatever trauma he had in his life, whatever issues he had in his life, whatever stuff that he was going through in his life made him incapable of being able to express or give me what I was looking for. And I was like, yo, man, that was freeing. It freed me up. Like, it literally kept me from looking for whatever I thought I needed from my dad in that way. Because I think a lot of this stuff I had already got. The drive, the workaholic, the hustle, the get it out the mud, like all of that stuff I got. Right. Be a man, like treat your wife, like all that other shit, I got all that. But the approval, the need for approval, because that's what happened when you got insecurity and depression and things like that.
But that's also a normal thing for guys to seek from their dad. I mean, I'm sure, like, you've gone, especially now that I'm sure you've gone out of your way to give that to your kids.
The one thing I make sure I give to my kids is there's certain facts. You're always gonna know that I love you. Right. I don't give a shit like what. Right. I don't care. Like, you're always gonna be loved by me. Right. And supported by me. Like, you don't have to ever worry about that part. You know, right. I'm not gonna be disappointed if you make mistakes. Like, we all stupid. Right. We all get an opportunity to make mistakes. We all get an opportunity to fail. Failing is not bad. Like, there's certain things I've realized, you know, I'm not practical like my parents, but my parents are from a different generation. Yeah. You know, I'm not into, you don't have to have a 9-to-5 job. You don't have to graduate from college. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You should have a plan. Like, I don't know what you're going to do, but there's ways to earn money out here that you could get money aside from. We're not going to steal. We're not going to sell drugs. Like, we're not going to do that. You know, unless you're a pharmacist and you want to sell drugs legally, like, you do that. But we're not selling drugs. You don't have to, because you don't have to do that. Sure. You don't have to pimp yourself out. You ain't got to sell no drugs. You ain't got to do none of that, because there's people out here giving all that stuff away for free. Right. So what make you think you're gonna get paid for it? Like, just do the regular stuff. Like, if you don't feel like trying, if you don't feel like hustling, I don't know who kid you are. Yeah, right. Because between my wife and I, we are entrepreneurs and, you know, self-starters. Like, that's what we do. Yeah, right. I totally get it. We're the same. You got to create something, make something out of nothing. That's hip-hop philosophy. Like, that's what we do. Make something out of nothing. You got some dirt. As black people, that's what it was. You want to give us, so you said we can't have the rest of the pig. We're going to get the intestines. Okay, that's chitlins. Yeah. Okay, so you got these greens that nobody wants to eat because the greens are too rough, it's too firm. Or those collard greens, we're going to throw a little chicken leg in that thing and some broth and butter and some salt, boom, boom. You know, we got what we need. Yeah. So from the detritus that we were given as black people, we were able to create something out of nothing. And that same impetus helped foster hip hop, funk, R&B, rock and roll, soul, blues, jazz, all of that. And then for me and my kids, it's the same thing. It's like, yo, man, this is the type of people we come from. You know, my father would take you to jail. You stealing in my dad's house, you're going to jail. You go to jail, he ain't coming to pick you up. Right, but that's because that's the same thing his father told him. My dad was in gangs when he was little. My father was in Brooklyn getting it in. Yeah, oh no, for real. My dad was doing the do. He wasn't like, he left and joined the military because it was getting ready to get a little crazy. Yeah, that's what people did back in the day. Yeah, that was just either the service or you're going to jail, basically. He was like, I mean, he wasn't going to jail. He wasn't getting ready to go. He could see the handwriting on the wall. He was like, oh, they want me to do this, and somebody want me to do that. Yeah, I need to go. Yeah, good for him, man. Yeah. How about thanks for answering that so candidly. How about your mom? Most important thing you learned from her? My mom is a no excuses person. You know, so my mom taught me, like, no excuses. Ain't no excuses. That's great. Zero. You have any hobbies outside of music? Yeah. And cooking? You know, aside from photography and cooking, I love to write, not just raps or whatever. You know, I like playing chess. Me and video games got a whole thing. I love video games. I can't have a console because I'll be on it all the time. We have we have 0 TVs in my house. My kids have grown up with no TV. That's awesome, man. We had a TV until they were like 12. That's great. Now we got devices, right? But TV and that's great. The TV is just a big version of this, man. Yeah, it was a babysitter. We wasn't doing that. Like, when they were little, they had it, but then we got to a point where it was like, why you need that? Good for you guys, man. Need that, yeah. That's awesome. But hobbies, yeah, I think that's it. I like to, my wife likes to garden. I like to cook for people. That's my favorite thing.
Well, dude,
like
if I'm in DC, I'm knocking on your door.
Once
I'm
these,
giving you
once these,
giving you a
no,
heads
it's
up.
all good. Once this Corona is about, you know. And now here's the other thing that's been happening during this pandemic. Man's been learning about all sorts of repairs. So I have I have learned how to fix my washing machine. I have disassembled and reassembled my washing machine 3 times.
Wow. So there's any listeners in DC?
Don't call me. Don't call me unless you got that bag. But no, I had to change the drum in the washing machine. I had to fix the locking mechanism on the washing machine. I've done that. I've changed out my own dryer elements, heating elements in my dryer.
That's wild, man. They say this is where Google is your friend, or YouTube is your friend.
YouTube is my friend, and I've been doing all that other stuff. I'm so happy. Another lesson my father helped me with was fixing cars.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So I've been able to change I just bought a diesel.
Oh, wow.
For the first time. So this is crazy. It's a brand new kind of situation. I'm wary. They want an exorbitant amount of money to change the battery.
Yeah, everything in there is like really expensive. I had one once.
Yeah, I'm about to learn how to take this seat out so I can change the battery myself, because I'm not giving you $700 to change.
Right on. Yeah, that's a bit. $700 to change a battery.
Not doing that.
God, man.
That's the dealer. The dealer wants $700.
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
I'll give you $700, bro. It's not gonna happen.
2 more questions, man. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of that has been deliberate and how much is a natural part of aging?
Biggest change is learning to be more kind and understanding, actually. So I thought that I was a kind person until I started really having to think about empathy and kindness in a whole different way. And so I think some of it is aging, but I would say with the caveat of having kids, right? So having children, the expectation is, you have expectations of what you want for your children.
Yeah.
I thought that I was lax in my expectations because I didn't, I wasn't putting a bar up like my parents did, right? Like, you got to go to college, you got to do this. Like, it was none of that for us. I just wanted to be good people, right?
Yeah.
But as you go along, it's like some of the things you like, you know what? As a parent, it don't matter what I do. Like, which goes out to other people. It makes you empathetic and thoughtful about other people, because it's like, I sat here and raised these kids, contributing to these people who've been loaned to me. They ain't really my kids. They just individuals that came through the universe and been loaned to me for a specific amount of time to learn some lessons, right? But they really their own people. They're not my kids. They're their own people. And so watching them make crazy mistakes or do wild stuff, I'm like, yo, what? What was the inspiration behind that? I got to check. My battery said it's about to go. I just want to see how much battery. Oh, 7%. We'll be good.
Okay, yeah, we'll be done.
So I was like, yeah, it's just that. It's making me be more kind to people, just based on the kindness I've had to have for my kids, right? And the empathy I've had to have for my kids for things that I thought was things that for just how I was socialized, I'd be like, oh, that's nothing. But to them, it's everything.
Yeah. So
then I have to take myself out of the situation as their dad and look at it from their perspective and be like, oh, no, that might be something major. And kids are dealing. I saw that. This is the other thing. I sat in a parent-teacher joint one time, and this parent was like, oh, these kids got it easy. They could just go to Google the answer, and they'll be fine. And I was like, nah, right? Because that's what we would normally think. You would think that, right? It is access to information is easier, yes. But what do we have? We had one set of encyclopedias.
Right.
We had one dictionary. Right. If you're lucky, you had or at the library.
At the library, yeah.
You had an atlas.
Yep. An atlas. Oh my God. That's
dictionaries, right? Yeah, dictionaries, a thesaurus, the whole nine. And you had the news. And the news consisted of a very specific amount of channels.
Yes.
And you had the fairness doctrine, which meant that if I put on the TV an opinion that was one way, I had to have somebody there to say the opposite thing so it would be fair.
Correct.
Kids these days don't have a fairness doctrine, so anybody can say anything.
Totally.
And they have a billion resources. How are they supposed to sift through all that shit to find out what's the right thing?
No, man, it's
So
like I
they don't
agree.
have it easier.
I agree with you. It's like going into a restaurant and there's 200 things on the menu. It's like I just need 6, man. You know, like.
And would you say that's easier? Or
no, it's it's infinitely harder.
Would you say have it? Or would you say 5 things on the menu is like, yo, I got 5 things.
Right.
So no older person should be talking about how easy these kids got it. Yeah. They don't got it easy.
No, I think it's very.
And they got to live their life in real time. Like, I'm so happy social media did not exist when I first hit the road. Jesus.
I know. Yeah, man. It's too much pressure, man.
Can you imagine being in the bands that you were in with the social, not even the pressure, but just what kind of shit did you do?
Yeah, just,
yeah. No, if it was on camera, Lord have mercy.
I'd be in big trouble.
Right, exactly.
I agree with you, man.
I'm with Jay-Z. He said, when I was selling Instagrams, last thing I wanted was my picture snapped.
Yeah. Hey, and last question, and thank you so much for everything, man.
Thank you, man. This has been great.
Over delivered. Thank you so much. What's next for Kokayi?
Just creating more stuff. That's the thing. It's like I want to create as much stuff as possible with as many people as possible, no matter the size of the institution or the artist. So I always want to create. I want to create new experiences. I want to create new buildings. Like I want to provide, like being from DC, there's a specific infrastructure and system that I think is necessary to make us the great next mecca of music. Like, you know, we get these, why can't we be Atlanta's or New York's or California's or whatever? I think DC has all the talent in the world. I just think that we need the right type of infrastructure. And I want to be sort of one of those, you know, the team of individuals that helps bring that about. Yeah, man.
You should be because you got enough experience. Man, let me tell people where to find you, and thank you again for everything, man. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate it for sure, brother.
Kokayi's last record, first of all, is Kokayi, Kokayi, and his website is kokayi202.com. So I would love you to check him out on there. His last record, it is very chilled out. It's called Distant Waves. It's like very ambient. It's really great to, you know, like if you're getting it on, probably throw that thing on. You serve you right. You didn't hear me say that. I would love everybody to go to his YouTube channel and subscribe there. It's just look up Kokayi on YouTube. Again, Kokayi, and go to his Patreon as well. What do you got going on Patreon? It's patreon.com/Kokayi. Yes, sir.
Yeah. New music, new films, new everything. So I put up the trailer to the film I'm doing on Addis Ababa. We went to Addis 2 years ago and made a documentary about the creatives and creative economy infrastructure there. So I'm putting up trailers to that. I'm going to end up putting the movie up before we premiere it. You know, but I haven't been a great Patreon. Like, this is the thing. I'm super honest. So when I first started on Patreon, I was like, yes, I'm going to be making everything all the time. And then I kind of fell off. And I'm like, you know, and my friend told me, like, that happens with Patreon.
Yeah, I think
it's got to be consistent. And so that's what I'm working on now, is just making sure I have people come on, be consistent as possible, you know, and have places where they can access the information.
Awesome. And if you want to see a real wordsmith, go to his Instagram as well. What is it called on Tuesday?
Off the Top Tuesdays.
Off the Top Tuesday, man. This guy will blow your mind. Not only does he have great videos, but he is just, I don't know how he does it, man. It's like he's such a master wordsmith and such a sharp guy, the way he strings things together. And it's interesting, too, because when you're doing it, man, I could see like there's a lot of brain power. You're like super intense. This isn't
I'm trying to think of the next word. Like I'm trying not to think of the next word while thinking of the next word.
I know. Yeah. And that's not easy by a long shot. And you could see that. And I'm like, holy shit, this guy, I would never in a million years want to do that. So, man, thank you for everything. I really appreciate it. Again, everybody check out Kokayi on Instagram, Kokayi, Kokayi202.com. The new record is Distant Waves, and subscribe to his YouTube channel. And thank you, brother. Hold on one second. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much to Kokayi for being a very cool guy and hanging out. I appreciate it. And don't forget, man, especially nowadays, happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play a guitar or your wordsmith rapping, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Kokayi, thank you for everything, bro.
Thank you, brother.
You got it.